Hello, this is Sarah Brosh. Welcome back to my channel. So I want to do a video for Jodi Shaw, and she is the amazing and brilliant whistleblower, neo-racism whistleblower at Smith College. And you're probably, if you're familiar with me, you're probably familiar with Jodi as well. Everyone, please follow her on Twitter and on YouTube and support her. I believe she has a Patreon account as well. I have a Patreon account, but I haven't done anything with it. I need to get on top of that. So Jodi's amazing. She is actually on administrative leave right now. She has she basically submitted a complaint saying that the critical race theory based anti-racism training to which she was subjected is racist, is a form of racial harassment, and so now she's on administrative leave. There's an impact assessment. Her colleagues said that they feel like unsafe around her. So she's just an amazing person in the fight against woke intersectional feminism, critical race theory based anti-racism training, which she refers to as neo-racism, and that's a perfectly appropriate moniker. So definitely support Jodi. She's fantastic. So she did a particular video which I want to respond to, and it was a video about the way in which Smith College responded to an alleged living while black incident at Smith College in summer of 2018. So this was like a couple of months after the Living or Napping While Black hate crime hoax at Yale on May 8th, which culminated on May 8th, 2018. And this immediately obviously grabbed my attention when it happened. So it was something very similar where there was a black student, I believe an African student, but I could be wrong about that, who made a Facebook video of being approached by a campus police officer at Smith College, and she was sitting and eating her lunch in some lounge or whatever on a couch or something. And so apparently an employee, and I guess this person who was the person who made the Facebook video and who objected and who then, went to the ACLU and named the wrong person initially, I guess, named an employee, and it was not that person, I guess, who had actually called the police, but the person whom she named and falsely identified as the person who called campus police to report that she was sitting there on a couch in the lounge eating lunch. That person who was falsely identified continues to be harassed, received death threats, gets doxxed. So it's just been that person's life has just been turned into a nightmare. Like, obviously I know what that feels like. So anyway, so then what Jodi's video was about was the way in which Smith College responded to this incident that was an alleged living while black incident. Now, Jodi and I spoke about this, and she doesn't regard it as a hoax. She doesn't regard it as a race hoax or a hate crime hoax. Now, I absolutely regard what happened at Yale as a hate crime hoax, and I believe that the Yale administration and Yale campus police were not only complicit, but they actually directed Lalata Sambola and Jean-Louis Renison and the resident assistants, Grant Mandagora and Esther Sosa of the Hall of Graduate Studies, and told them how to perpetrate the hoax against me. So Jodi does not regard what happened at Smith College as a hoax. She believes that the person who was sitting on a couch in a lounge having her lunch, who was approached by a campus police officer because of some employee's call, she believes that that person honestly regarded what happened as a racist incident. But Jodi's video was about the way in which Smith College responded, and I want to contrast that with the horrific way that Yale responded to what happened to me. So Jodi spoke about how what she really wanted to point out in her video was that Smith College did an investigation. Smith College investigated and apparently brought in an outside person and investigated it and produced like a 100-page report or something, and investigated every inch of what happened during their, sitting on a couch while black incident, and determined after an intricate, extensive, comprehensive investigation that it was not a racial incident, that it was not a racist incident, that the employee who called the campus police was doing exactly as they had been told, exactly as they had been taught. That there were children's programs on campus, so they were told to be, especially vigilant, and that this was, a place where, in fact, this person who was sitting having her lunch on a couch, I'm sure didn't mean any harm, but was in fact in a place where they weren't supposed to be, and it seemed very strange that there wasn't anything else going on campus at the time, and it seemed very strange, and that, that they had been told to, report any strange incidents. And so it was, but the Smith College, and Jodi's point was, Smith College investigated what happened back and forth, top and bottom, left and right, and they determined that it was absolutely not a racist incident, that race had nothing to do with it, that the employee who made the call to campus police had not done anything wrong, that employee had responded exactly as they had been trained and told to respond. And that was it. And so Jodi's point of her video was then, why in the press and in public statements is the administration of Smith College saying like, Smith College is this horrible racist institution, we're just so racist. And now, in a response to what happened in the summer of 2018, even though we investigated and we determined that it was not a racist incident, now we're going to implement all of these new woke intersectional feminism, critical race theory based anti-racism trainings, and everyone's going to have to participate, and everyone's going to have to profess their racism and their privilege and give their entire histories of racist incidents in their lives. And, so it was just, and basically, be like, if they're white, basically say, I'm a white person, therefore I am racist innately, inherently, and I have privilege innately, inherently, and I'm sorry, and, and I have to, be like Dr. Ibram X. Kendi and be this, proactive, anti-racist, and admit my racism. Even if you aren't racist, you have to admit your racism, which is compelled speech. And so Jodi's whole point of her video was, why on earth is Smith College acting like some heinous racist hate crime happened when they produced a 100-page report and did a thorough investigation and determined that race had absolutely nothing to do with what occurred? I mean, obviously they're doing it for optics, they're doing it for PR, but it's just, it's insane that they're doing this. It's insane. It's insanity. And we are living in a moment of cultural insanity. And that is insane. Now, what I wanted to talk about in response to Jodi's great video is the way that Yale responded to me. Now, this is a point I keep making, And I just want to be really, really clear. Yale responded to me in the way that they did because they knew I was innocent. They knew it was a hate crime hoax. Why did they know that the Living or Napping While Black hate crime hoax at Yale was a hate crime hoax? Because they participated in it. Because they were not only complicit in it, they directed it. They told Lolata Ciambola and Jean-Louis Renison what to do to perpetrate the hoax. The Yale administration led the global defamation and vilification campaign against me that almost got me killed. They directed the fake news press, including the New York Times. They directed the moral outrage industry, including the ACLU, to defame me, to vilify me on a global scale as a genocidal villain who lynches black students at Yale via the Yale campus police, okay? So it should surprise no one that the Yale administration did no investigation. They just condemned me immediately condemned me publicly, immediately lied about me, immediately condemned me publicly on May 8th. Before I even knew that I had been filmed, before I even realized what had happened, the Yale administration, including grad school dean Lynn Cooley, President Peter Salovey, and VP of Student Life Kimberly Goff-Cruz, all of whom are lying bigots and frauds, and also Yale Campus Police Chief Rennell Higgins, who is also a lying bigot and fraud, they started making public statements condemning me as guilty of racial harassment on May 8th. On May 8th, on May 9th, on May 10th, and then they never stopped. They did no investigation ever. I was falsely charged of having perpetrated racial harassment by Yale grad school dean Lynn Cooley at the end of June. Oh no, at the beginning of June. At the beginning of June. It wasn't until the end of June that I got the letter that Lolata Ciambola and Jean-Louis Renison allegedly wrote to the Yale administration after the February 24th, 2018 incident in which they accused me of perpetrating a racist hate crime comparable to a lynching. That's part of the reason why I refer to what happened at Yale as a hate crime hoax. Okay, then, my surrogate dads paid $10,000 to a criminal defense attorney to save my life and to stop Yale from expelling me. If they had not done that, there is not a doubt in my mind that the Yale administration would have expelled me, knowing full well that they were probably driving an entirely innocent person to suicide. Then, no investigation has been done. Then, in July 2018, Yale General Counsel admitted to my then attorney that there was no reason to think that I had ever in my entire life engaged in racism, and also dropped the racial component of the harassment charges against me. Then on August 1st, 2018, Yale President Peter Salovey releases a public statement, and he condemns me as guilty of racial harassment. He announces sweeping university-wide policy changes, for which I am the impetus for all of it, for everything. He did this knowing that I was innocent, knowing that the racial component of the harassment charges had been dropped, knowing that Yale General Counsel admitted that I had never engaged in racism in my entire life. He knew I was in hiding. He knew I was being deluged by death threats and rape threats and threats of violence. He knew I was suicidal. He was trying to get me killed. And this was on August 1st, 2018. And this was before my scheduled hearing. So he was precluding the possibility of me receiving any due process at all. He condemned me as guilty. And then VP of Student Life Kimberly Goff-Cruz, who is basically an evil demon. She's an evil, lying bigot and fraud. She did the same thing. in the Yale Daily News, and the Graduate Student Assembly did the same thing. They created a whole committee that was dedicated to trying to get me killed and destroy me and oust me from Yale. And Lolata Ciambola was a member of that committee. And they condemned me as guilty of racial harassment in the Yale Daily News, made public statements. And this was also before my hearing. And the Graduate Student Assembly of Yale University provides half of the committee members for the disciplinary committee for my hearing. So basically, I was condemned as guilty. There was no investigation. There was no due process at all. And then at the beginning of October, Yale grad school dean Lynn Cooley withdrew the charges against me, but she still illegally banned me from Yale's campus and illegally banned me from teaching at Yale with no due process whatsoever. And the reason why, I was told by persons at Yale that the reason why Yale grad school dean Lynn Cooley withdrew all charges against me was because they wanted to be, well, they didn't want the hearing to take place because it would have been obvious what they had done to me, that they were complicit in the hoax, in the hate crime hoax, and that they were trying to get an innocent human rights activist killed. But also, the reason why she withdrew all charges at the beginning of October 2018 was because they wanted to be able to say that they had never conducted an investigation. Because if they said that if they had to say that they conducted an investigation, like, it's just ridiculous, right? It's just ridiculous because it was I'm obviously innocent. It was obviously a hate crime hoax. They were complicit. They were trying to get me killed to cover up their evil wrongdoing and their malfeasance. So of course they want to be able to say, oh, we didn't investigate anything. We never investigated anything. Well, if you never investigated anything, then you banning me from campus and banning me from teaching at Yale was illegal and is illegal, and it's ongoing, the banishment. So I just wanted to, and then at the end of 2018, and then they released it publicly at the beginning, more towards the beginning of 2019. Yale did bring in an outside person to do what we're calling a Title VI review. So it wasn't really a Title VI review because they were never going to establish a Title VI office on campus. And it was some guy named Reese, so they call it the Reese Report. And so then this lying bigot and fraud named Reese went off and got some big cushy DEI bureaucracy administrative job at some other college or university. I don't remember where. But anyway, so this idiot named Reese, they brought in, and he was just a puppet. Because if you read this report, it's absolutely ridiculous. It's asinine, it's ludicrous, it's a joke, it's a farce. It's basically no one spoke with me. No one spoke with me. No one asked to speak with me. Most of the report is a discussion of woke intersectional feminism. And it's meant to defame me, get me killed, destroy my lifelong human and civil rights career, vilify me as a genocidal villain, a Pol Pot figure who should be killed, meant to decimate my life and irrevocably destroy my reputation. And basically all they did was they included the letters from the different Black student groups on campus, which all called for me to be expelled, ousted, destroyed, irrevocably ruined. And that's basically the entirety of the report. It's ridiculous. And of course, this Reese idiot decides that Yale doesn't need a Title VI office. And we all know why Yale doesn't need a Title VI office, right? Because Yale doesn't want to actually have to abide by the due process rights of the accused, either faculty or students, right? And so, because Yale doesn't actually care. Yale doesn't actually care about making Black students or students of color safe and feel safe and welcomed on campus, right? Of course they don't. So that was a complete farce and a complete joke, and that's the entirety of Yale's investigation into the living or napping while black hate crime hoax at Yale. So basically, they just did none. There was no investigation. There was never an investigation. And then during the commencement that year in 2019, so that would have been in May 2019, the Yale campus police department harassed me. They were calling me and pretending like some completely benign, completely innocuous tweet I had tweeted was some kind of death threat. Or like, they were pretending like I was gonna like bomb commencement or something. It was so ridiculous. And I just yelled at them and I told them that I was gonna get a restraining order against them. And that I was going to press charges against them for harassing me if they didn't stop. And so that was the way that the Yale administration responded to the incident on Yale's campus, the living or napping while black hate crime hoax at Yale. So a little bit different than the way Smith College responded, although Smith College still, even though they did the most thorough investigation and determined that it was not a racist incident, still implemented sweeping university-wide policy changes. Oh, and the vast new Maoist diversity, equity, and inclusion (DEI) bureaucracy that that Yale president Peter Salovey announced, which is called "Belonging at Yale," is named after me. It should rightly be called "Get Sarah Brosh Killed for Money and to Cover Up Our Gross Woke Malfeasance" initiative. And it's named "Belonging at Yale" because this is the lie, one of the many lies that Lolata Siambola and Jean-Louis Renison told about me. Jean-Louis Renison said that I told him that he didn't belong there, which I didn't say and I never would have said. And so basically, Yale President Peter Salovey made a ton of like new committees and new people got jobs with, $100,000 plus salaries. And it's all because of me. All because of me. So it's good to know that the Get Sarah Brosh Killed industry is, keeping the economy afloat, during COVID. So anyway, yeah, it's just ridiculous. It's insane. It's insane. And none of this had to happen. None of this had to happen if Yale President Peter Salovey and Yale Campus Police Chief Renell Higgins had told the simple truth. All they had to say was Sarah was being harassed and we told her to call the Yale Campus Police at any time for any reason. All right, I don't want this video to get too long, so I'll leave it there for now, but I love you all so much, all right? I'll have all my fundraising links below. Please support me so we can put an end to this neo-racism and restore due process and equal protection at Smith College and at Yale and on campuses across the U.S. and everywhere. All right. I love you so much. Thank you. Bye.